When you sit down for dinner tonight, what if the ingredients you take for granted suddenly disappear? What if the next food shortage isn't in headlines, but already on your plate? The biggest water crisis in modern US history is happening, and most Americans have no idea how close it is to reaching their kitchen table. Across the United States, fresh water, the essential resource behind every crop, every animal, and every supermarket shelf, is running out. What used to be a seasonal concern is now becoming a national emergency. Rivers that powered cities and farms for decades are now shallow streams. Aquifers that fed millions are draining faster than they can refill. And climate extremes are pushing water supplies past the breaking point. When water disappears from farmland, food follows. The United States has always been blessed with vast agricultural lands and powerful rivers, from the Colorado to the Mississippi, from the Great Lakes to the Pacific Northwest. But today, that system is cracking under pressure. Farmers are struggling, prices are rising, and the future of America's food security is now in question. One of the most urgent warnings comes from the Colorado River Basin. For nearly a century, this river has supported 40 million people and irrigated nearly 5 million acres of farmland across 7 states: California, Arizona, Nevada, Utah, Colorado, New Mexico, and Wyoming. It grows 1/3 of America's vegetables and 2/3 of its winter produce. Yet the Colorado River is drying so fast that its major reservoirs, Lake Mead and Lake Powell, have reached some of the lowest levels ever recorded. Satellite images show shorelines retreating like a disappearing coastline. Every time the water drops another foot, America's food supply loses strength. Think about lettuce, broccoli, spinach, cauliflower, those winter salads filling US. Supermarket shelves largely come from the Southwest. Yuma, Arizona is proudly known as the winter lettuce capital of the world. But if you look past the marketing sign, the landscape around it is vast desert kept alive only by irrigation. If water cuts continue, those green fields could turn brown, and the price of something as ordinary as a salad could double or disappear from stores entirely during winter months. Meanwhile, California's Central Valley, responsible for more than 1/4 of the nation's food, is battling both water shortages and groundwater depletion. Almond orchards, tomato fields, and fruit groves have been bulldozed because farmers can't get the water to keep them alive. Some are abandoning agriculture altogether. Others are drilling deeper wells, tapping ancient water that will never return in our lifetime. But deep wells cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, money only large corporations can afford. Small farmers are losing the battle, and once they vanish, they rarely return. And the crisis isn't just in the West. The Midwest, America's breadbasket, depends heavily on the Ogallala Aquifer, one of the largest groundwater reserves on Earth. For decades, farmers drilled wells into this underground lake to grow corn and wheat that feed the nation's livestock and stock global food systems. Now the Ogallala is shrinking at an alarming pace. In parts of Kansas and Texas, it's already gone. The wells simply run dry. When that happens, it's not just the land that collapses, it's the economy, the community, and the food system built upon it. Meat and dairy production are also at risk. The beef, chicken, and milk industries depend on enormous amounts of water, not only for the animals themselves, but for the crops they eat. To bring 1 single pound of beef to your plate can require nearly 2,000 gallons of water. That's enough to fill more than 30 bathtubs. Now multiply that by millions of cows. Without water for crops, ranchers can't feed livestock. Cattle auctions increasingly show desperate farmers selling off entire herds because they can't afford to keep them alive. That means less meat in stores, rising costs, and shortages that ripple outward. Hard numbers reveal the truth. Food prices are climbing faster than incomes. Eggs, bread, cereals, chicken, staples that used to feel affordable, suddenly strain family budgets. Economists warn that the combination of climate stress, water scarcity, and supply chain volatility could transform how Americans shop and eat. Imported foods may replace domestic products when farms fail, but at much higher cost and with far fewer choices. Water isn't just an agricultural resource, it's a national security factor. The US has long fed itself and much of the world, but if water continues to disappear, reliance on foreign food supplies will grow. In a world already facing global conflicts, droughts, and climate instability, depending on imports is a dangerous gamble. The question becomes, who will feed America when America can't feed itself? The crisis is also affecting US energy production. Hydropower plants on major rivers have reduced output due to low water levels. Meanwhile, fossil fuel extraction, including fracking, consumes vast amounts of water in states already struggling. Agriculture, cities, and industry are now in direct competition for a limited resource. Someone will have to lose. Scientists say the water shortages we see today are not random. They are the predictable consequences of rising temperatures, shrinking snowpack in the Rockies and Sierra Nevada, and decades of overuse. Heat drives more evaporation. Less snow means weaker rivers. More farming demands more irrigation. The cycle feeds on itself. But change is possible. Innovations like drip irrigation, recycled wastewater, and drought-resistant crops could help save billions of gallons. Urban areas can capture and store more rainwater. Policies can be redesigned to prioritize food production and conservation over short-term profit. Scientists and engineers are already leading projects to rethink agricultural water use. Still, these solutions require something America has not always shown: cooperation. States fight over who owns the rivers. Corporations prioritize yield over sustainability. Political leaders argue rather than act, all while the drought worsens. This is not about choosing between farmers and cities. It's about ensuring that everyone, from rural families to urban consumers, has access to food and water in the decades ahead. One simple truth remains: every meal on every table starts with water. Without it, modern life falls apart. It's invisible in the final product. You can't see the gallons behind a loaf of bread or a glass of milk, but it's there, powering the entire supply chain. When water grows scarce, food grows scarce. And water is growing scarce. Imagine waking up to warnings that fresh produce would be limited for months. Imagine proteins doubling in cost within weeks. Imagine grocery stores with long empty shelves, not due to panic buying, but because there wasn't enough water to grow what was supposed to be there. This future may sound extreme, but ask the farmers staring at empty canals. Ask the communities where wells are already dry. Ask the families paying more for smaller grocery bags. The future is arriving unevenly. Disaster hits rural America first, and cities feel the shockwave later. By the time the crisis reaches the average household, it will be too late to avoid the worst impacts. So the real question is, will the US act now while solutions are still possible, or wait until food becomes a luxury? As water scarcity worsens, each choice matters. Buy local, reduce waste, support farmers who adopt sustainable practices, advocate for smarter policies. This isn't just an environmental issue, it's a dinner table issue. A water crisis is a food crisis. You may not feel it yet, but it's already in motion. There is still hope. Human innovation has transformed deserts into orchards before. Water conservation technology is evolving faster than ever. Researchers are discovering crops that thrive on less water. Change is possible. If the urgency is recognized, if leaders listen to science, and if society supports a shift towards sustainable agriculture. The United States can still rewrite this story, not as a nation losing its water, but as one adapting early enough to survive and thrive. But action must happen now. Every drop counts, and every decision shapes the meals of tomorrow. If you care about the food on your table, the future of farming, and the security of America's food system, help raise awareness. These stories need to be heard so solutions can become real. Like this video, share it to inform others, and subscribe to Crisis Lens for more investigations into the hidden forces shaping our world, before they show up in your home.